What's poppin', people? It's Dante. Today we're going to be discussing how to enter the flow state in street photography and stay there. Now, I find that the flow state is that peak experience when you are on this street, when you find that everything aligns at the moment you click the shutter effortlessly. And so today we're going to be looking at some photographs, some contact sheets. I'm going to be giving you some practical tips and advice on how to achieve the flow state, from the mindset to the physical nature of life, and then of course some photographic ideas. And so to enter the flow, one must forget everything they think they know. The first step with entering the flow state comes in the mind. It's something that derives through your mindset. And so the thing that I like to do when I'm on the street, and before I go out there to practice my street photography, is I let go of any preconceptions of what I will find, of what I will photograph. I let go of all notions of what makes or breaks a good or bad photograph, and I simply go out there in the spirit of play. And so I find that there are three key traits that one must possess to practice street photography, those being courage, curiosity, and intuition. And through this trifecta, you heighten your awareness and that state of being that enters you into the flow state effortlessly, where flow state is full immersion, where time fades, distractions disappear, and intuition takes over. You know, for me, flow state derives through movement, through motion, through me moving my physical body in the world. And I find that when you're on standby and you're sitting inside, to me, it feels like your soul, it just slowly dies. But when you're outside and you're moving your physical body through the world, photographing, you exist outside the passage of time and you thrive as an artist, and you enter the flow state through clicking the shutter and moving your physical body, through removing in your mind any preconceived notions of what you will find, from removing in your head the idea that this is a cliche photo or this is something that I should click or not click. You want to make sure that you're simply in the moment and photographing through that intuition, through your curious state of being, through your courage. And I think that through that trifecta of curiosity, courage, and intuition, you can cultivate yourself to become so much more intuitive, so much more in the moment, so much more present and grounded in a flow state. And so for me, flow state exists beyond photography, right? This is in writing, this is in any sort of art form like playing the guitar, the drums. This can come through simply walking or just any act of presence, where flow is essentially the moment where everything feels natural, where there are no thoughts and there's just simple vision and pure instinct. And for me, the flow state is a state of being that I achieve when I'm in the moment, when I'm super present and aligned with whatever it is that's in front of me. And I essentially become so much more immersed in the spontaneity, where I become laser focused on the patterns that exist in nature and human behavior, whether I'm watching the light or the way that people move and gesture on the street. And then when I start to photograph these patterns and I recognize them in these fleeting moments, I simply don't leave the scene until the scene leaves me. And so when I watch life unfold and I'm present in the moment and I'm making photographs, I'm in a very heightened state. I'm in this flow state. And when I'm in that flow state, the decisive moment, that time and space where you click the shutter, where everything aligns, derives through the flow state. It derives through clicking the shutter more and being present and being aware at the moment you click the shutter. And so looking at this contact sheet, you can see I'm photographing a scene outside of City Hall here in Philadelphia as smoke is rising from the fountain. And as the smoke is rising from the fountain, this man is trying to take a selfie in front of it. And so you could say this is a cliche moment, why photograph this? However, I don't think that way when I'm in the moment clicking the shutter. I'm looking to scratch the inner curiosity within me, and I'm clicking the shutter as the man's taking a selfie, this seemingly banal moment. However, as I click the shutter more and work the scene and allowed life to unfold naturally through being present and aware at the moment, he emerges from the smoke with his back turned to me, and it's a much more mysterious frame. And I look to create more abstract imagery these days that add mystery and depth to the frame, and I'm looking to make pictures in a way that can maybe ask questions or simply create more curiosity. And so I think that when you're on the street and you're watching life unfold and you see things, don't hesitate. Don't think at all. Just shoot. Don't think in your head, oh, this is a boring shot. This isn't something I should make a photo of. Simply focus your mind, your body, your soul, and have things align at the moment you click the shutter by being present and watching life unfold, allowing yourself to work the scene and click the shutter more, and simply don't leave the scene until the scene leaves you. Once he stopped and once the smoke disappeared, I went on with my business, but as the moment occurred, I remained focused and photographed through that moment. And so here in Coney Island on the 4th of July this past summer, I made photographs in a perpetual flow state for 8 hours throughout the entirety of the day. And so this is one of the first frames that I made in the morning when I arrived. And these boys are playing soccer. There's lots of movement and flow within their gestures here. And this happened through me being hyper aware at the moment to click the shutter, by watching the boys groove and move and the way that the ball flies in the air. And then midday throughout my journey, photographing on the beach by being in a perpetual flow state and making pictures throughout the day. Through removing thought and simply embracing the chaos, I came home with this frame of this girl running by with the ring in her hand in relationship to the man playing soccer in the background with the ball flying in the air. And then at the end of the day, as the light fades and everything aligns at this perfect moment where these boys are playing upon the rocks, I made one of my strongest frames. And this moment is probably my favorite moment from the day that I photographed. And it came through that flow state. It came through me being very present and aware throughout the entirety of the day, through me pressing the shutter more, through making photos of the same scene over and over again, through recognizing the patterns of the boys playing soccer and then photographing it throughout the day, and then finally, as the light fades, making this final frame. And so to enter flow, it's going to require you to subtract more from your life. And so how to enter flow? Essentially, the first step in this modern world is to turn off your phone. For me, when I see people on the street on their phones, it reminds me of the video games. Like when you see somebody on the phone, it's almost like they're playing life on pause mode, or they're just not there. They're not playing the video game. They're not present. They're kind of on pause. And so if you're constantly going and pressing pause on your controller and you're taking out your phone in this this video game called life, it's going to take you out of the moment. It's going to take you out of the flow. And so the first thing is to, of course, turn off your phone. Secondly, there's a mindset shift where you want to forget yesterday's photos. You don't want to dwell on the photos you made yesterday, last year, 10 years ago, or be thinking about the photos you're going to make tomorrow. You don't want to chase perfection. You don't want to have any attachments to the photos you're going to make today. You kind of want to let go and let life flow towards you and affirm that your next photograph is your best photograph. And through having this life-affirming mindset of clicking the shutter throughout the entirety of your day, you can enter this stream of becoming, this flow state where everything sort of comes naturally and you're no longer attached to the outcome of what you're doing. And that state of being where you're detached and you're in the moment and you're not distracted is going to help you achieve the flow state. And so here in Rome, I was photographing these nuns, and I simply followed my intuition by following the light. And as I saw the light fall upon their clothing, I thought it was beautiful, and I started to make a vertical frame. Then I shifted horizontally, and then as they were waiting to cross the street, I noticed at the very last moment that I was photographing this scene, a woman raises her hand behind her shoulder to give herself a scratch. And as I noticed her hand raise upon her shoulder, I made sure to include that within the composition very intuitively and quickly. But this came through me working the scene, through photographing, and then naturally this came to me at that very last moment by not leaving the scene until the scene leaves me. And then after I made this picture, the moment unfolded, and that was it. And they crossed the street. And so once I saw the hand raised behind her back, I quickly and intuitively moved my physical body in relationship to that hand and the nuns in the background, and I separated them from the left to the right. And this was something very instinctive and natural, and it came from me being in a flow state, through being in this hyper-aware state where I'm present, I'm grounded, and I'm watching the patterns of light. I'm watching the patterns of gestures. And when things happen spontaneously and quickly, one must be fast on their toes to pounce and click the shutter at that decisive moment. And so some of the tips I'm going to give for you today in order to achieve the flow state are very practical, are very physical, and they're things that I use to achieve flow state. And so hopefully some of these tips can sort of influence you to give it a try and see how this can help you along your journey, because I find that these tips are very practical and really do help. So the first tip is to stay fasted, where no food digesting in your belly basically means you're not going to have brain fog throughout the day. When you think of the gut and the vagus nerve that sends information to your brain throughout the entirety of your body, which is then connected to your eyes, I find that through not digesting food in my belly, through not having my gut biome disrupted throughout the day, by having good gut health, my intuition is heightened. My eyes are sharper, for the eyes are connected to the mind. The mind is connected to the gut. And these different elements physiologically and physically, I think, do influence the way in which we respond to life intuitively, the way in which we can more effortlessly enter the flow state. And so I believe a lot of photographers have decision fatigue because they got full bellies. You know, you go out there and you're eating waffles and biscuits and you're going to the coffee shop and enjoying all these yummy snacks. Well, guess what? It's going to make you stop to go to the bathroom. You're going to have to, go and take a shit. You're going to be completely out of the flow because you're grumbling and grumbling in your belly. And I mean, this is my personal philosophy. I do think that the flow state, it does come effortlessly when you're in a fasted state. And at this point, I don't even do fasting for the health benefits. I do it because I genuinely do believe it makes me a better street photographer. And so when I have nothing digesting in my belly and I have this clear instinct, this sharp precision with my physical body and my movement and my eyes and the way I see and perceive, I can react and respond intuitively and quickly at the moment I press the shutter, where this dog leaps over the railing at the Puerto Rican Day Festival and his tongue comes out of the mouth and this woman smiles and the brother is gesturing to his chin, and these moments come very quickly and you have to respond intuitively, and you can't be fumbling with your camera, you can't be moving sluggishly. These moments are at a fraction of a second and then the dog goes away. And so you have to be in this very clear state where there are no distractions. And I think on a practical physical level, fasting will help you achieve the flow. And so the tip number 2 I have for you is another very practical tip: to use a Ricoh GR. And now you can achieve the flow state with any camera, but the reason why I'm recommending you this particular camera is because it is the closest thing to having no camera. When you have a Ricoh on a wrist strap and it's glued to your body, it's glued to your hand by using a wrist strap, by having no viewfinder, and removing all of the distractions by setting the camera in automatic mode, by using a camera with no interchangeable lens, where every time you pick up the camera, you know that it's going to have the same focal length. You know that you can simply put it in an automatic mode. You can put it in your pocket. It's extremely minimalist. It gives you a sense of freedom to play and to simply not take photography so seriously. And I think what happens is a lot of photographers are fumbling and bumbling with their cameras, their settings, their dials, and all these things. But the Ricoh eliminates all of that, right? Using the Ricoh on a wrist strap, it's like having like a pistol in your pocket that you can quickly use, like you're John Wick or something. Like, it really is this quick and intuitive camera that will allow you to achieve the flow state because there is no distractions, because it's a black box with a shutter. It's a camera unlike any other. I think that this is a very separate camera to like any other camera that you can use. It's a completely different experience, and I think it lends itself very well to entering the flow state. And I find that by using the Ricoh particularly on a wrist strap and slowing down when I'm on the streets and entering the flow state this way, I start to make more pictures in a very loose and quick and intuitive way that doesn't really get in the way, because I'm not having to raise the camera to my eye, but I'm simply allowing myself to respond to my gut, and sometimes not even looking at the LCD screen and just simply throwing the camera around quickly and intuitively. And so tip number 3 is to go barefoot. And so these are the Vibram 5-finger ELX shoes, and I find that when I'm walking on the street with these particular shoes, because they have only a 3mm sole and you can feel all of the surfaces around you, I become so much more grounded, quite literally at a practical level, where I'm slowing down my pace and my gait becomes stronger. My feet, my legs, my back, my posture, my spine all become fortified, and I have a heightened awareness because I can feel the street below me. I can feel the sensation of the concrete. I can feel the grass when I walk through the park. And by feeling all of the surfaces around me, it puts me in the flow state very naturally. It's a very primal experience to be fasted, to walk barefoot. And when you're walking on the streets at this slow pace, you start to notice more, you start to feel more, where to enter the flow state, one must be in the present moment. One must enjoy the sounds, the sights, the smells, the feeling of the street. And so when you're slowing your body down and you're in the moment, you start to notice details. You start to notice things that you otherwise wouldn't photograph in the past. You start to look at life more intensely. And I think that the shoes that you wear and the way that you walk and the camera you use and the different ways in which you physiologically align your body and your mind influence this ability for you to achieve the flow state. Because in order to achieve the flow state, one must be in a perpetual state of production, of making more photographs. And so I bend low, I photograph things that I otherwise wouldn't have in the past because of the things that I do to achieve the flow state through these tips that I'm giving you. And so the fourth tip is to walk slow, like really slow. Sometimes I walk 75% slower than the pace of everyone else around me. And then this allows everything to come to me very intuitively, where I simply let life flow to me. And then I'm simply there and prepared with my camera, ready to press the shutter as the moment occurs. And so really flow state lives in the movement, not in the speed at which you're walking. Not like walking super fast. Like I think this is a very personal approach for me. Like some street photographers like to rush around so fast and be in the chaos. But for me, I like to be in the flow. I like to be very slow. I like to allow life to come to me. And I find that it really is simple. With photography, I treat walking like meditation, and through that sort of meditative state, through entering the flow state and moving my body at this pace, I start to notice more, I start to photograph more, and ultimately, this is the goal, is to photograph more. And through movement makes improvement, and through moving my body at a slow pace, through making more pictures, I start to get into the groove, I start to get into the flow state, and recognize when a moment occurs, when to press the shutter, by being in this heightened state, where you have nothing but your body and the moment, and that timing to click the shutter when something occurs derives through the gut instinct. And so the street as meditation, where I essentially become a flaneur in my hometown. When I'm out there in the streets, I'm simply wondering, what's out there? What's around the corner? I think to me, like my mindset and philosophy, it's basically just being a tourist in my hometown. And I do find that I thrive in the chaos. Despite this idea of the flow state being this very meditative experience, you want to allow the chaos of the street to fuel your creativity. You want to allow the street to become a place for you to meditate, where this sort of flow state becomes a way of life, where you're watching everything around you very intuitively and quickly, and you're not necessarily thinking, but you're responding to your gut. You're not out there, hunting for the next best photo, right? You're not out there looking for anything particular. You're simply snapshotting your way through life and bringing your camera for the ride. To me, this is the ultimate way to treat photography. I think a lot of people get caught up with the fact that they need to work on a project, a book, a theme, or work towards some sort of gallery. And so they only go out with their camera at a particular time of the day. But I treat photography as a way for me to be in the spirit of play throughout the entirety of the day in a flow state. From the moment I wake up in the morning till the moment I go to sleep, I always have the camera with me. And this is another reason why I recommend the Ricoh GR, where when I'm out there in the world, I'll drop low and go to macro mode and look at the insects on the ground and the way they're illuminated in the light. And then look up at the storm clouds and photograph the grandeur and the beauty and the sublime nature of life. The infrastructure, the signs, the different things that make up urban life. The signs on the wall, the different architectural elements that make up cities. The landscapes, the vastness, the light that's peering beyond the horizon on a snowy day. To the chaos of the streets, to the people and the gestures and the moments that occur. And the idea with flow state and looking at these pictures is that you can now understand how I enter flow state. It's through treating photography as meditation throughout the day, where from the moment I wake up in the morning, no matter what it is and no matter how mundane, I'm always making photographs. I'm playing the game my own way. I'm not limiting myself to what is or what is not street photography. I'm not limiting myself to the outcome of what I'm making. I'm not thinking about whether or not the photo is going to be good or bad. I don't have any preconceived notions of what I will find. I simply go slow and let life flow towards me and photograph in a perpetual flow state throughout the entirety of the day. And so practical flow tips are to simplify your gear. One camera, one lens. The Ricoh GR is the best because it's a lens glued to your camera. This will allow you to shoot more and to think less. You don't want to have too many rational thoughts in your mind. You kind of want to shut off the mind and move your physical body. And you shouldn't plan anything. I really do believe that to take your phone out of your pocket, to go on the map and think of where you want to go and all these different things becomes so distracting. Simply follow the light. Don't follow the map, right? And so I find that the best photos simply come through entering the flow state. The flow state is that point in time where there is no time, where you exist outside this passage of time. You know, when you're moving your physical body through the world, you know, it feels as though you exist outside the passage of time and you thrive. And that's the pinnacle experience in life, is the flow state, where at the moment you click the shutter, you are at this heightened awareness, and that state of being is going to allow you to improve your photography. And this is where your best work will be made. And that's why I find the flow state to be so critical. It's not just a mindset, it's a physical thing. And so let go of the outcome, detach from the results. You know, stop judging whether or not you're going to make a good photo today. You have to really hone in on that inner curiosity within you, that intuition. This is the critical component that will influence your ability to achieve flow state in street photography. Flow is all about letting go. It's all about detaching. This is a very important part of the mindset. And so when you have this detachment and when you're in the flow state, you enter this period of bliss, of joy, of happiness. And then through that abundant state of being, and through this primal vigor and vitality through being in a fasted state, and combining the mindset with the physical body, and having the camera with you at all times, treating walking like meditation, you will start to recognize all of the patterns. And that moment that happens that's so brief and quick and spontaneous, where all of the chaos comes at you here on the streets, you can simply put order to gracefully by walking slow, by moving your body, by letting go. And really, like for me, like the flow state, it's just such a beautiful, primal feeling that I hope you can achieve. I hope that maybe some of these ideas and tips that I've given you today can help you achieve this state, because I think that it really makes life worth living. Like when you find yourself in a flow state and you're making pictures throughout the day, I mean, you're going to feel at peace amongst the chaos. You're going to feel like you're at this state of Zen bliss, of joy, of paradise. And to me, that's what I seek to achieve through my photography. And I achieve this mentally, physically, spiritually, and then through combining my curiosity, my courage, and my intuition by removing the thoughts from my mind and moving my body at a slow pace, I much more easily enter this flow state. And so stay fasted, stay grounded, stay curious. Let life flow towards you. And remember that you can't live forever, but at least you can make a photograph. You know, for me, that's one of the most beautiful thoughts I have about photography, where this life of ours is so short. And to enter the flow state is to enter the present moment. And if you consider the present moment, this is the gift. The gift is the present. It's not in the past, it's not in the future, it's right here, right now. And when you're walking and you're moving your body and you're making pictures, it's going to give you this feeling of abundance, of gratitude for the day. And if you treat each day like it's your last, if you treat each photograph that you make like it could be your last, you will enter this flow state much more naturally and much more easily. And I find that this is one of the most important mindset shifts for a photographer, is to cultivate the body, to cultivate the mind, to cultivate your spirit, to align, to enter the flow state, which will then be a heightened awareness that will allow you to make photographs in this very instinctual, intuitive way, where everything becomes play, everything becomes effortless, and it will improve your photography. So hopefully some of these ideas helped you today. I really do find that the flow state is one of these experiences that everyone must experience. And I'm sure you have. You know, if you're out there and you're practicing street photography, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And I just wanted to share my ideas with you this morning about this. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out DanteSisofo.com. I have 3 free ebooks from the Ultimate Ricoh GR Street Photography Guide, giving you my settings, technique, and the philosophy, to my contact sheets ebook, looking at photographs behind the scenes, and then finally my Mastering Layering in Street Photography Guide. And I also, with every video I make, I have in the description of the video a link to the blog post. I actually never discussed this in any of my videos, but essentially on my website, it's dantesisofo.com/blog. I post everything. And I also have a Start Here page where I catalog all of these videos and all of these blog posts. And whenever I make a video like this with these slideshows, I also give you different photos. I put the entire video in written word as well if you'd rather read over. If you want to look at the contact sheets, or just access these files more easily. I'll even upload these PDF slideshows, and they're downloadable. You can download these slideshows if you want. You can remix them. You can do whatever you want with them. You can download the photos. Everything's free and accessible. I even put the audio file for these videos on there so that you can simply listen to the audio on my website if you want to. There's different things on my website that maybe will help you enjoy this kind of content more. And so I just wanted to share that at the end of this video. And so, yeah, once again, thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.